I mean, we clearly have a long way to go. And there's just
Yeah.
so much to it, like you continually say, like it's complex and there's
Yeah.
just so much to it.
Mhm.
But for you to even begin reimagining a world without Christianity in white nationalism, where do you suggest we even begin?
I think it starts with listening, listening to those people
Mm.
who are most affected by the history
Yeah.
of racism, the way that racism's been institutionalized, and the rhetorics that normalized those racist practices in our institutions and render them invisible to people who don't feel their effects. So, for example, I was
Mhm.
in a discussion about diversity training, and I was struck that you had people being polled saying this is something that we need in our institution, and then directly somebody who is a part of the institution saying, "I really need you to hear me when I talk about these things, that this is needed." And I was struck about how little
Mhm.
impact that seemed to have because some in the institution
Yeah.
maybe had a different perspective, which is totally fine. But I think, it's an ethical question, and I get this from Judith Butler's giving an account of oneself, that the fundamental ethical question is not what you're comfortable with in the sense of like, what can I do, but what you're willing to risk. The big ethical question is, are you willing to
Yeah.
risk all the things that you thought were being unraveled and engaging with the need of someone who's saying,
Mhm.
I'm hurting and I need help? And that's
Yeah.
the fundamental question
Yeah.
that I think I keep coming back to. The question is, I'm not personally a Christian, uh, so I leave that to Christians themselves. What kind of institutions do you want? Whose voice gets to shape what that institution looks
Mhm.
like? What questions are you asking, and who's asking them, and who feels the need to answer them or not?
Yeah.
I know, I'm just like,
So many great points. I know. I'm like, well, and I think that is such a great answer to all of this work that we're doing in terms of dismantling, these years of oppression, overt racism in our country, right? Is that people need to be able to listen, and really we should be listening to the most oppressed person in the room. And, because white folks really want to maintain that power, we see a lot of these issues, coming up where it's like, well, I think that my voice needs to be heard or my opinion matters more. And sure, it can be included in the narrative, but really, like, we have the best information to give. So yeah. So Damon, what other organizations should we be paying attention to for more education on this work, this
Well,
really
again,
important
I
work?
mean, in full disclosure, I've written for Sojourners before, twice. They
Yeah,
invited me
nice.
to say
Yeah.
something, even though I'm not myself a Christian. I've been upfront about that. Just from my point of view of somebody who studies these groups, what would I advise Christians? So
Yeah.
I would think Sojourners Magazine is a good place to look. Their website's a good place to look.
Okay.
Heathens United Against Hate is a Facebook organization, which brings together,
You
yeah.
said heathens.
So, well, heathen, of
That's great.
course, the word pagan comes from a word that means country person, and heathen basically means the same thing in a different language. So they reclaim these
Oh,
words that have
okay.
been
Okay.
used to denigrate whole people, to sort of
Got it.
talk about their
Yeah.
revived or revised or
Ah,
reconstructed
I like that.
pre-European or pre-Christian European practices. So they use the catchy name Heathens United Against Hate.
Yeah.
Um, but it's a sort of an aggregate social media presence that has brought together a lot of
Mhm.
different pagan groups and pagan voices together to address this within the context of paganism, of all different kinds, Norse inspired or what have you. Um, and then I think of individuals too, individuals that I've been attracted to their ideas and the way they talk about things, and they've impressed me, not simply because of what they have to say, but because they're constantly inviting these interesting people who can share ideas with us. And of course, that's the Reverend Kelly Brown Douglas, whom I greatly admire. She's amazing. I would encourage anyone interested in the intellectual activist side of this stuff to listen to her and to pay attention to her podcasts and her
Okay.
guests. And then Dr. Simranjit Singh, he's also one of these people that has a pretty big media presence. He's a practicing Sikh American, so a practitioner of
Mhm.
Sikhism, but offers again another great sort of one place where you can go and see these discussions happening.
All right. Well, thank you so much,
Awesome.
Damon, for
Thank you.
being here with us. We were super excited for this interview, and you did not disappoint. So much great knowledge
Thank you.
and information. So thank you so much for being here and continuing to do this work. Listeners, again, make sure to check us out on YouTube. That is new this season. So please head to our channel, The Unpack Project, and like and subscribe and share so that everybody can access all this visual content this season. Next week, we'll be joined by Patrice O'Neill from Not in Our Town. Not in Our Town is more of a local movement that is talks about how we can stop hate, bullying, and just have more inclusive communities at a local level. So we talk a lot about, systems level change. We've talked about government. We've talked about research and, people that are doing this work at ADL and all these other places. But we really want to talk about how we can empower communities to do that work as well. So make sure you join us next week to hear all about that. We're looking forward to it. Bye.